Old San Juan was exceptional. I had no idea how much I was going to enjoy it. It's a vibrant city with color, rainbow colored buildings, the artwork, the food, the people. Everything is so vibrant and full of life. Puerto Rico is an American territory, so no passports are needed, plus it's US currency. It has our banks, our post offices, plus it's so close. It's a easy hop from Florida or easy to sail over. You see these pastel color buildings everywhere you go. On this particular street, it's mostly homes, which are like condominiums or individual homes, and they're so pretty. I loved walking up and down all the streets. Our first meal was at this breakfast place they serve breakfast and lunch, and it's an old convent that's been turned into a hotel and restaurant. And the convent dates back to the 1500s, which is the very beginning of when Columbus went over and claimed it for Spain. For breakfast, we had the traditional cuisine of Puerto Rico, which included eggs and toast and like a spicy potatoes. John's breakfast was really excellent and so much food. You can see there's a tortilla there. It's very small, but it's thicker than the traditional tortillas that we have in the US. Plus, he has shredded beef and beans and rice, and also the the Spanish cheese, which is kind of different. It's not quite like Mexican cheese. It has a different texture, almost like a mozzarella, and it was all wonderful. This is one of the doors leading to the convent restaurant, and as you can see, 1521 is when this convent was built, and I'm not sure when it was turned into a restaurant and hotel, but it really is spectacular. And I couldn't believe that in America, on the island so close to us, and of course now our island, that things were built and are still standing from the 1500s. The number one tourist attraction in San Juan is the Castillo San Felipe de Moro Fort, and it is also a U.S. national park. You're going to love it. You could spend an entire day looking around that whole area around the fort and the other buildings and the cemetery next to it. However, if you're off on a cruise, I would say spend 2 to 3 hours at the fort so that you have time to see some of the other wonderful things, especially the pastel buildings and the plazas within Old San Juan. As you can see, there's a large grass area that you walk through. There's a pathway, and you walk up to the fort. And on the right of this picture, you can see that there is an old cemetery with a dome. And the cemetery is wonderful too. So you'll want to, if on your way back from the fort, stop at the cemetery and walk around a little bit because it has the most amazing statues and artwork that you can imagine in a cemetery. It's the most beautiful that I'd ever seen. Here's a shot of the fort wall, and you can see that there are towers. There are towers at each of the corners of the Fort Morto, and this is a shot of one of them. The fun thing about all of these little windows in the walls and in the turrets is that, or the towers, is that iguanas live in them. So birds and iguanas make their homes in all of these different little spaces, and you see them everywhere. This photo is taken inside the fort, and what you see is staircases on each side of John, and then a path that is like a smooth ramp. And what this is for the men to carry huge cannons up to the top where they can be loaded, of course, and used in case of attack. And it took lots and lots of men long hours to get just one of those cannons up those stairs. Plus, they had police helping them too, but it must have been arduous work. Like I said before, there are iguanas all over the fort. This one looks like it wants to join the students that are doing one of the tours of the top level of the fort. They live in the nooks and crannies, and they really are. I think that they walk up to people and they probably want to be petted, but that's not something that I wanted to do. But they are fun to see. This is one of the views from the second level of the fort looking out to the sea, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Of course, that's the Caribbean, and it looks as lovely as it ever has. Here you can see an iguana leaning out to look at the iguana dude that's working its way up the wall. And that's just a, for instance, of those areas where they would shoot guns out of those holes, but now iguanas and birds make their homes in them. Beautiful statues and sculptures are all over Old San Juan, and they're mostly in the plazas. And there are lots of squares, plazas. About, I would say, every couple of blocks, you come onto another square, and you will see beautiful sculptures and also fountains. And those are also the areas that mostly have the restaurants and shops too. These stairs are not too far from the harbor, so when you're leaving the cruise ship and you're heading forward, you're going to come upon an area where there's a square, and you'll see this staircase which has a heart painted on each of the stairs, very Frida Kahlo-esque. It looks the hearts are like Frida Kahlo style. Next to it, the pink or the peach colored building, that is a tour, San Juan Tourism, so you can stop by there and get some more information. And to the left of this staircase is where there's a bunch of outdoor dining, 5 restaurants, all alfresco dining inside and out. You're going to really like this area, and it's close to the ship. Very regularly, they do reenactments of men that are preparing the city for attack because so many countries in Europe wanted this particular island. The reason Columbus called it Puerto Rico, it means rich port. And that's because this is the first island that you come to in the Americas where you can load up with more food and fresh water before you head further toward the United States and toward North America. And so everyone wanted this rich port, Puerto Rico, and they were always having to defend themselves. This was one of the reenactments in front of a church that we saw when we were walking around. This statue is of Christopher Columbus, and he's being honored in Plaza Colón, and Colón means Columbus. And he is the person that claimed this island for Spain. So Puerto Rico was part of Spain, and it continued to be Spain until we conquered it in the 1800s. So it went on for more than 300 years, even though many, many other countries tried to take it. Spain held on. America was the one that finally did take over. These pastel buildings are right in Plaza Colón as well. So you can see that there's a square, there's a lot of nighttime activity, including eating outside in the plaza with finger foods or eating indoors or outdoors at the restaurants. And there are 5 restaurants that are right next to Plaza Colón. They have seafood, steak, Italian, Mexican, and Puerto Rican cuisine at those 5 restaurants. And so you really can have your pick of anything you'd like, and you'll be very happy. We ate at the Mexican food restaurant this night. Well, Puerto Rico is the birthplace of the pina colada drink back in 1963. So I was a whole 2 years old when this amazing drink came to be. And what's really fun is that you're allowed to carry any of your mixed drinks, any alcohol. You can walk all over Old San Juan with your mixed drink, your pina colada or your beer, wine, anything you'd like. It's totally legal. Enjoy. The pina colada was created at this restaurant. It's beautiful. The barachina, you're going to want to go in and get a pina colada and walk around with it, or even better, eat at the restaurant. It has a indoor and outdoor section. So the indoors I did a video on, as well as the outdoor courtyard, which is where we're eating. And they're also well known for their fresh daily catch. Here's my meal, and John had the swordfish. I had a little bit of a smaller plate because I'd already had a couple of pina coladas over the last couple of hours before we ate, so I was already kind of full, so I decided to have a glass of wine with this one. This upstairs bar has a beautiful view of the ocean. What's really cool about Puerto Rico is one side of Puerto Rico is the Atlantic Ocean, the other side is the Caribbean Sea. And we went up to this bar upstairs a couple of times because you can see the views are beautiful and they do a wonderful pina colada. Puerto Rico just celebrated 500 years since Columbus discovered it and claimed it for Spain. And this museum is wonderful. It shows of the posters of this 500th anniversary, but also this used to be barracks that were for the soldiers, the Spanish soldiers for Fort Moro, and all of those barracks have now been turned into this beautiful museum. Now, earlier I showed you that there's this amazing cemetery right next to Fort Moro. This is the entrance, the stone entrance going through this tunnel to the entrance of the cemetery. The cemetery dates back to 1853, and it has the most extraordinary headstones and sculptures I've ever seen. These are complete works of art. And they are like every other grave has these amazing sculptures. You're just going to be dumbfounded at the beauty when you look in this cemetery. This dome is the mausoleum for the cemetery. It looks like a lovely crown above all of the headstones and graves. More of these massive, beautiful sculptures that are at the grave sites of these families. It really is outstanding. If you go to Fort Moto, you're going to really, really, really want to take the time to walk through that really cool tunnel and see this amazing location. Ponce de Leon was the first governor of Puerto Rico, and this is his family home. He never lived there because he died very soon after he began living in Puerto Rico, but his family lived at this location, and I've done a separate video with the Ponce de Leon family home site, which overlooks the sea, and you're going to be able to see inside and outside, including the pretty Spanish furnishings. This little kitty was taking a nap in the family sanctuary. So everything is open to the outdoors. And like I said, lots of little kitties are all over Puerto Rico. And so this guy was having a snooze in the sanctuary. The cats are protected and fed from donations, not just from tourists, but really everybody that lives there. So here's a sign to let everybody know that they can donate. They can donate food or they can donate cash in order to help to feed the kitties. You see that little guy inside of the little cat house? Well, that cat house has food in it. And also there's many of these all over Old San Juan. You'll see the kitties are taken care of and they have places for shelter as well as food to eat. Most of these little guys just like lying around. They have plenty to eat. They have places to sleep. And so they're pretty lazy all over the town. So they don't come up to you or bother you for food because they already are pretty snug as a bug in a rug wherever they are. As you can imagine, there are beautiful churches all over Old San Juan. As you're walking around, going to the different things you want to see in the shops and restaurants, you'll mostly see them near the plaza squares. This one was particularly pretty because of the beautiful dome, and I loved all of the arches, and it's a little more understated, not so ornate with all the gold. Have a look at the ceiling. It has these beautiful arches and the decoration in that top corner. And also, I really like all the nichios. This one has the Jesus with the baby in it, but then there's many of them that also have the Virgin Mary in them. Here's another outdoor eating section. Again, it's near one of the plazas and not very far from the harbor. So you'll be able to eat day or night outside, which is really wonderful because the weather is almost always really nice in San Juan. I'm sure you've seen photos of this beautiful street before with all the colorful umbrellas. It's important because this street goes to the Capitol buildings, which are at the end of the street, and there are guards there at the very end of these umbrellas. You'll see guards because it is their state capitol. Also, you're going to love this area because it's filled with really wonderful shops. Some of the top stores like, the Gucci's and the really expensive shops that are worldwide, but also a lot of the local shops. One of my favorites was with Espadrilles, which is right on the corner next to where these umbrellas are. Plus, we ate outside at a restaurant where I could see the umbrellas just to my right as well. There's a lot of outdoor seating with the little restaurants. So you're going to definitely go to this area, and this is where you'll do most of your shopping. Here's John's lunch when we sat next to the umbrellas. It was traditional meat, salad, and plantains. Now, plantains are one of the main crops and one of the main staples of the San Juan diet or the Puerto Rican diet. And they can be savory or they can be sweet. Now, with the meat and the salad, these were savory plantains, but also for dessert, you could choose a dessert and sweet plantain. We can't wait to go back to San Juan. It's not far from St. Croix where we have our condominium, so we go pretty often to our condo, and now we're going to start adding San Juan onto each trip. On our next trip, what we want to do is we want to go see the rainforest in Puerto Rico, which we've heard is lovely, and you can also do the rainforest on horseback. And I'll make sure and take loads of videos so that you can see those travels as well. They'll probably be later in this year or beginning of next. Enjoy your trip to this lovely island. Puerto Rico is beautiful. It's lively, vibrant, colorful, and you're going to love the food. Have fun. Enjoy.